Welcome to episode number 135 of the Closing Table with Lawyers title. I'm your host, Tamera Gaede. Make sure that you watch both episodes. This is part one, and we're going to have a second part specifically for realtors. We're going to talk today about AI's consumer impact right after this.
Gather round the table, pull up a chair. Real talk, real growth, we're taking you there. From the first handshake to the final key, the wisdom you need to set your business free. It's the Closing Table with Lawyers title. Tamera Gaede, she's your main arrival. Yeah, Tamera Gaede makes the vision clear. With Lawyers title, your best year's here.
Welcome back to the episode number 135. I have a returning guest on the show, Brian Force. He is the executive director of productivity for United Real Estate, but he is also a real estate entrepreneur. So I'm really excited to have Brian and his big brain back on the show.
It's good to be back. We're seeing each other a lot lately. I'm excited about it.
I'm excited about it too. And we're doing a two-part series today. Today, we're going to analyze consumer activity with AI. But on the second part, we're going to analyze and give some helpful hint to our realtor audience about how to use this information in their business. So super excited about connecting the episodes today. Thank you. Welcome back to the show. Let's get rolling.
Let's do it.
Okay. So today we're going to talk about how AI is changing home buying.
Yeah.
Okay. And we've got quite a bit to cover today. So I'm really excited to dive into this. Okay. So as it pertains to AI, do we all need to take a step back?
Well, I think when it pertains to AI, do we all need to take a step back? I think that where AI is taking us, I think we preface any conversation around AI, we should preface with nobody knows for sure. Anybody who's talking to you with 100% certainty around what AI is going to do in our world or in any specific industry probably needs to take a step back.
Okay.
There's a lot of things that are happening with AI right now simply because they can. And when we talk about agent side and advice, we'll dive into that a little bit as well. But there are a lot of really interesting things happening with AI as far as the tools that are coming, the trinkets that people are building, the fun things that we're doing.
There's always like a new little
There's always
something.
a new little thing, right, that you can do now.
Yes.
But what I'm more interested in is what is utilitarian? What is actually changing the way that we behave in a way that we can get more done in less time or accomplish more in a more seamless way. And so when we talk about the home buying experience, there are things that are absolutely happening right now and will continue to happen into the future that are going to, I believe, fundamentally change the home buying experience.
I like the utilitarian approach, right? Mm-hmm. It's more nuts and bolts.
Right.
So we're going to deep dive into that today. But I do agree with what you're saying. We don't understand what its full capability is going to be, or even if there is a limit to its capability.
Right.
And so what we want to do today is talk about what the average consumer is doing by using AI. And so what value does the average consumer gain with using AI right now to search for their home?
It's a great question. So we talked about this a little while back. It's changing the way the consumer searches for homes in the specificity with which they can search and the results that they can generate, which then streamlines the process. So throughout, however many the last years, there's been the big tech giants that control most homeowners' search.
Right.
Right. You have your Zillows, your Realtor.coms, Redfins. Those are the big ones.
Yeah, those are the big ones.
Agents have the MLS. And so those are two sides of relatively the same coin. It is a front-facing platform with filters. That's all it is, right? And so I have to operate in my home search. I have to operate within the bounds of those filters.
It's very constrained. Mm-hmm. You can't have a vision for what you're looking for.
150%, right? With AI, the way that home search is changing and will continue to change is the fit and context with which I can, or the specificity with which I can search to generate better results more quickly, which then streamlines at least that part of the home buying process, right? This is not necessarily a bad thing for agents, by the way. I like that my buyers will be able to find exactly what they're looking for in a shorter amount of time with more specificity. Imagine removing all of the filters from your Zillow search and just being able to talk to it.
I love this idea for home searching.
Because that is what will happen, right? When people, we call it, GEO for generative optimization or AEO.
Yeah, don't be.
And we'll talk about that in a bit.
We're gonna have to dive into that part.
But we'll stay on the home searches for now. But it essentially changes the way that people speak to whatever search engine they're talking to. Right?
And wait a minute. Do you know the most used AI platform for home searching right now? Do you know what
I
it
would
is?
imagine it's ChatGPT.
Yeah, same. I think everybody just defaults there.
I think for like consumer behavior, not like business utility, then ChatGPT is probably the most used, right?
Okay. So that's an important thing for realtors to know is you don't it's not like social where you have to be on all these different platforms, but you do, and we're going to dive into that too later, but knowing where the consumer is going most often is important.
Very
let's explore, because right now it's just like searching on Amazon, right? I need a house between 500 and 750.
Yep.
You click on a map and you're like, draw a circle, and I need 3 bedrooms and 2 baths and a backyard, and you know what I mean? But you can't talk about what you want the house to look like or feel, or what the design capability has,
or within the neighborhood that you want to live.
Yes.
How does that fit your lifestyle?
Yes,
right?
That's even better than what I was thinking. So I'm really interested in exploring this change of AI, allowing the consumer to free flow and just say whatever they want, as opposed to being constrained with what the website has to offer them.
Imagine if I was going to move to somewhere in Texas and this is what my family is like. This is what we do. These are the age of my kids. Don't worry. Let's put the security aspect aside for a little bit. Trust me, people will get more comfortable with sharing these things. This is what we like to do. This is the size home that we're looking for. Here's why. And if you want to go a step further, this is the type of design items that I like. This is the budget with which maybe we have to remodel the property. And if we do, here are the things that I like as well.
And show me pictures of what the house could look like.
And then I want to see the listings.
Buy a house now.
I want to see the listings that fit that criteria in your opinion. And by the way, every time I have a conversation with any AI, don't just make it input, output, have a conversation, right? Like it's going to ask you better questions if you allow it to, right? So like in my home search, right?
Building out your AI to understand you, and that will help with the home buying.
Every time you start a prompt, finish with ask me whatever questions you need to ask to get a better understanding of what I'm trying to say,
that's
right?
a great idea.
And we have a much deeper conversation, right? But then the start to finish is you start with an idea of where you may want to move, and you teach AI who you are, what your life is like, what you're looking for in your new home, what you're looking for in your new community, your new life, all of that type of stuff. And then also, if you're willing to make changes or invest in the property, if you want to upgrade it, remodel, like what are the things that you care about are important to you, what's your budget, all that type of stuff. Then we pull the listings, and then we see what your home is going to look like as well, which is pretty awesome. And then we do a deep dive in real time on everything that's going on in that community. What are the major things that I need to know about? Where's the trajectory going, right? What are the big things that I need to be aware of from a local government standpoint, community, all that type of stuff? Like what drives people crazy about living here and what do they love the most, right? That's like an enormous amount of information that is going to directly pertain to my life. Think of the home search being more of like, a good way to put this is we used to search for houses and now we can search for homes.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. 100%.
Like a home is like my community. It's my life. It's like where I live. I consider my home to be like my entire community that I live in.
Can it also, would it be able, I'm guessing it would be able to project like future growth of the city and the area around you. I mean, I wanted to tell me where the freaking construction blocks are in Salina right now.
Yeah, fair enough. It could do, there are,
I went to Fire Up itself, Megan Fire Up herself, and say, Tamera, don't go that way. You need to go the outer loop because this is blocked off, and there's a policeman that's going to try to ram you. Sorry, that's an actual story
that's a
for
real
today.
Story.
Yeah.
But better inputs create better outputs. So the better conversation you have, the more prepared you're going to be. But I think that the default thing that I'm trying to say is that rather than just going to a platform and being able to filter by the existing data set they have and say, this is the things that I want to look at, we're going to be able to get so much deeper in such a shorter amount of time that by the time I go to an agent, like that part of the home buying process is going to be so smooth and immersive that I can make decisions with a lot more confidence, a lot more quickly.
Well, and I'm kind of thinking now, like buyer's agents won't have to get in the car and drive around to 30 plus properties to help a buyer find the right one, because the buyer already found the top 3 they want to look at because they did the exploratory conversation with AI to get exactly what they wanted.
100%. Couldn't agree more.
It's really interesting. It's very exciting.
It's super, super cool. And I think that just to put this out there, like there's always going to be naysayers that be like, you know, people don't want to search for homes that way.
Yeah, 100%.
But that's true
100%.
about everything, though. That was true about everything for a little while.
Well, I'll give you a great example. I did not, like the last thing I wanted to do after a long day of work is get on HomeDepot.com or any website and try to find a freaking kitchen faucet.
Sure.
Okay? Megan found it for me in like 2.5 seconds.
But
so expediting your life, you know, we're working as people living in America, we're working so much more than ever any generation previous to us, trying to balance all the things that we have in our lives to do. I wish I could just tell Megan to get my groceries ordered and have them sent to my house.
We're going to get so much more
I
comfortable
know.
with that.
So it's going to benefit us. I mean, I know there's naysayers, but I believe it will benefit us in a positive way by expediting some of these tasks that we just have to do for our lives. So, Megan, I need to order a top on Amazon. This is what I need it to look like. Can you please just go ahead and send it to my house, charge my card?
Right.
Now, charge my card, scary.
Well, you know, I think this is it's a happy meet. Like this is something I think people don't talk about enough. We tend to talk in extremes when it comes to AI, and nothing is ever unilaterally true, I don't think.
Yeah.
For every pro, there's a con. As AI continues to become more of a mainstay in our lives, most of the most extreme things we could probably think of won't happen. Like we won't be living in a utopia, but it also won't be a hellscape, right?
Yeah.
Good things will happen that improve our lives, and some bad things will happen too.
Well, and that's true with AI.
It's true with everything.
You know, the whole data center debate on, you know, in Texas for specifically is, I mean, Erin Brockovich is back.
She's back.
Yeah,
I know.
she's back. And I understand the complications of the AI progressing, but not the conversation for today. And you and I can go down a tangent all day long. So I want to stay focused. Okay.
Deal.
So what does it like talking today about what AI can do? What does it cost the consumer to put too much weight into what AI is saying to help guide them through the real estate transaction? Like that's a kind of a flip side to the conversation. We have the positive side of being able to identify the perfect house for our lives, but right now it would come into a cost.
Sure. Yeah. I think one of the key things to keep in mind is that at this current moment in time, AI is almost unbridledly affirmative in all ways. It will tell you you're right about everything.
Yes.
Right?
And it hallucinates.
It hallucinates, and like there are times when I accidentally mistype and it doesn't understand what I'm saying and it'll agree with me and I have to correct it. I'm like, no, I didn't mean to say that.
Sure.
So if you're talking with anybody who you claim or who claims to be an expert and they always agree with you, you're going to run into some trouble, right?
Yeah.
AI is not to the point where it has the intimate local knowledge. I believe that it is the best the best tool to seek advice from on all things related to a real estate transaction.
I 100% agree with that.
There's not only that, it's definitely not the best tool to use to be negotiating your real estate transaction.
Absolutely.
Especially if the person on the other end is doing the same thing. Now you just have two unbridledly affirmative AIs. There's Mr. Ryan Serhant has a story about this, about a condo that he was trying to sell in New York where the deal almost fell apart because the buyer was talking to AI about comps and the buyer's AI ran comps, quote unquote, and valued it like $3 million less than what the seller's AI told him it was worth. Then they went to list it, and they eventually made the deal work. But you know how? By getting human beings back involved and having a reasonable conversation. There's so much nuance and complexity to a real estate negotiation that people that are experts at doing it and understand the humanity behind it are still incredibly valuable tools. And so when it comes to guidance on listing your home, selling your home, or buying a home, trust a human expert still. Again, I have no idea what the future looks like, but don't rely on AI as a tool to be negotiating an asset worth hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on your behalf.
Well, and you remember this came out a while ago, and I've talked about it on the podcast before. The gentleman in Florida that sold his house using chat. And, everybody was like, ooh and on over the fact that he accomplished that. But NAR then came out with the backstory, right? And talking about how the agent on the other side went through the ringer trying to get him to the closing table because he was over reliant on chat. But then the killer part was how much money he left on the table. It was up to $250,000 that he left on the table. Yeah.
And also, he didn't really use AI to sell his home. He was a FSBO. He still listed it himself,
it
right?
was a FSBO.
Like, he manually listed it everywhere. He negotiated the deal with the agent. The agent ended up working basically double time.
Correct.
Right? But like, AI didn't do what AI did was help him price the home and tell him which walls to paint.
Well, but
if you really read it,
and you need to be careful with what the media is reporting about the capability of AI.
Yeah, because that's
nobody
not AI.
issued the press release that NAR did about what all he missed.
Like, truly, he did not use AI to sell his home. He consulted with it for some guidance. I believe that he probably should have talked to a real estate agent about pricing before he listed it.
Yeah, 100%.
In the future, we'll be able to do a lot more, but there are a lot of, it's just a very buzzwordy thing to talk about right now.
It is.
And so people say AI does stuff for them, and then you dig in, you're like, okay, well, you still did it. You just asked AI about it first.
And you said something really important that I don't want to gloss over is how you have the nuances. You have to become incredibly specific. It still can't do a real estate transaction. Let's just take that off the table. But the nuances to get through a complicated situation, you have to understand how to educate it at such a deep level. And that gentleman didn't have the real estate education to even do that. Does that make sense what I'm saying, where I'm going?
Well, no, let me ask you a question. How you're on the title side. We all know the data. Terminations are up right now.
Yes, I hate it.
So what is like the singular most like common reason why a home terminates? Because people can't agree during the repair amendment stage.
100%. Always. It'll be forever.
Upset about whatever, right?
Yeah.
So why does that happen? Why do people go in knowing that I'm listing this house in a certain condition and I've walked through this house and I see it's in a certain condition? There are some surprises sometimes, but why do people get off the rails? Well, it's because the agents on one of two sides, or maybe both sides, don't have the upfront conversations to set expectations, and that are not good enough at finding win-wins. Really great agents keep deals together.
100%. The whole goal is to get to the closing table.
Really,
let's not lose sight of the ball.
And that is something like when it is very, very important in this particular environment. Even if terminations weren't up, just to get deals even to the starting line. Two agents who understand the emotional toll that buying and selling a home takes on the clients are able to navigate transactions in a way where the surprises are minimized. We're able to navigate obstacles, expectations are set up front, and the emotions that get involved don't end up in the transaction either never getting to the starting line or never getting to the finish line. 99% of terminations could be avoided if the buyers and sellers didn't get at odds with one another. And that comes down to experts negotiating on their behalf that know what the heck they're doing, can manage the transaction efficiently, can find win-wins, and AI cannot do that right now. That's where people need to be very careful with using too much AI in their real estate negotiations, because AI is just going to always say you're the good guy and they're the bad guy. Yeah,
and we had this conversation. I mean, this is just a tiny little thing, right? But you said you could be using AI to craft your questions for the podcast, and I'm like, no, I can't.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Because AI doesn't have my real estate expert brain. Okay, yes, it could spit out a bunch of questions, but I'm never going to get to where I want to go because I'm applying my education and my experience to the conversation.
Your personality as well.
100%. It's so big. Anyway, okay, so we need as consumers, right? We're putting on a consumer hat. As consumers, we need to understand that the value of the realtor is it's still very high, and we need a realtor, an experienced realtor, to help guide us through the biggest financial transaction of our lives.
It's probably even more important right now because so many people are starting to get used to asking AI about everything, which again
yes.
is inherently affirmative. And so there's a lot of undoing of expectations that AI is setting for buyers and sellers that expert agents can do that's a very, very valuable part of our fiduciary duty right now is understanding that we may be going into a transaction with somebody who's asking ChatGPT about everything. That's the type of thing we haven't been accustomed to before.
Sure.
Right.
We're all excited. Shiny object.
Yeah. The biggest comparison would be like going into an unrepresented transaction on the other side, like a FSBO, right?
Yeah.
And I'm on the buyer side and you're a FSBO and you just think you know everything, right? Now, not only do you think you know everything, you have a little tool that will tell you you're right about everything all the time, right? That is a volatile thing to have to navigate. And so I think the agents are more important than ever right now because you have people on either side of the transaction seeking guidance from this little tool that will always tell it that it's right. And that can get people on very divergent paths when they have two different outcomes in mind. Right?
Agreed.
So I think the agent at the center of the transaction is more important than ever.
So talk about what technology, can you tell us what technology is currently being created that will greatly impact the real estate transaction?
Absolutely. So think of every part of the transaction happening with less friction in the future.
Explain.
So what are the friction points in a real estate transaction? Well, if I'm a buyer, normally I'm going to get financing. Right?
Yes.
That's going to come with that becomes a friction point. And I don't say that in a negative way. It's just these are things that we have to work through in order for me to purchase the home.
Get to the closing table.
So it creates a friction, right? When I go into the grocery store, there's no friction between me and buying my groceries, right? It's from my car, we're done. So everything that stops me from buying something today is a point of friction. So what will change with technology and AI is all of those friction points will become more streamlined. So when you think in the future, how long does it take to get approved for a simple mortgage, a W-2?
You talked about this yesterday. They ask for one thing at a time during the financing approval process. Right. I want someone, could you please not do that? It makes me insanely crazy.
When you think about the friction points, like some of them are very obvious.
Yes.
Right. So
let's just have AI put a list together of all the things you're going to need.
Exactly.
If I answer this way, then I'm going to need this from you.
Exactly.
Right?
It's just
do it all at once.
Conditional logic.
Yes. I love that idea. Keep going.
People are going to hear this and they're going to listen to your show and they're going to go, well, it's not going to be able to do this, this, and this. Like, I just want to say up front, I don't mean to be mean. You're wrong. It's just going to take longer. Okay. So the reason I use this example is think of the simplest mortgage you can do. I have a W-2 job. I've been there for 20 years and I'm buying well below my budget.
Yep.
Right.
Love it. Okay.
That's still going to take 15 days for approval. Right. And the fastest, I still got to do it. Right.
Yes.
Right. So 5 years from now, that'll take an hour.
I think that is really exciting.
It might take less, right? But now we have more complicated things. We have, what is it? What stated income loans. We've got, entrepreneurs, DSCRs, all those different things. So those are the things where people are going to look at this and go like, well, that's too complicated. Yes, AI is doing things right now that it couldn't do 3 months ago.
Correct. It's moving very fast.
And it's not all going to get rolled out at once. It's not like mortgages are just going to be automated overnight, right?
I agree.
But the simplest ones already are. They're beginning to become the underwriting process for the simplest, most straightforward mortgages is already becoming automated. I have my documents. Here's what you need. Instant approval.
I think that's lovely.
And then we'll start to build the knowledge base and we'll handle more complicated ones and more complicated ones to the point where, again, in probably half a decade, underwriting approval for a mortgage should take less than an hour. And by the way, why shouldn't it? If I have access to all the information and I have an AI that tells me exactly what I need, and that same AI, if I just give it within a secure environment, give it access to where it can find those things, why shouldn't it take more than an hour? Isn't it just the ability to provide a lot of documentation and verify it in a short period of time? So why does it take so long now? Well, there's manpower.
There's people individually reviewing all of this.
Right?
Yes.
Well, an AI can underwrite 1 million files at a time simultaneously.
Yes.
It doesn't take one person to look and you're in line, you're in line, you're in line. There won't be lines.
And we explored that on the mortgage side and we explored it on the title side. So it's going to make the the real estate transaction incredibly simple,
Right.
or quicker, faster, smoother, all of the above.
It will remove the majority of friction that doesn't deal with human beings agreeing on things.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's all
you're
just verification.
Yeah, I'm going to have to
and-
still negotiate the
Yes.
condition of the home, right? We did an inspection. I have a lot of things I need to work through. I'm spending a lot of money on this. I want you to give a little. We're going to take a little. But that happens in the courtroom every day, right? Two sides come together about some issue and they debate it and argue it out and try to find either, in that case, somebody wins or loses, or they plea and they find a win-win, right? That's not going away. But the friction in a transaction, so mortgage approval, title searches, things like that. There is a
underwriting
underwriter processes, right? Verification of documentation in every way, shape, or form is going to get completely smoothed out, just flat.
Love all of this.
Which the question then becomes, what does that do to the market itself?
Yes, and that's where we're going next. I'm interested to dive into this concept a little bit further that we talked about.
It's like a really interesting thing to explore because, again, anybody who says they know what's going to happen can't, don't listen to them with 100% confidence because we don't know, right? But what will be interesting to see sociologically is when a real estate transaction can happen more quickly. One, what will that do to the cost of home buying? Right? What will that do to the cost associated with all of these things that I used to have to, as a mortgage company or a title company, I have costs associated with providing this service that if I can use tools to drive my costs down, then the cost of actually purchasing a home should go down, or selling a home should go down as well, theoretically.
You mean, are you talking more closing costs?
Oh, yeah, right?
Yeah, not necessarily the list or the sales price, but more the closing cost.
Yeah, the costs associated with the transaction.
Not good news for us.
Well, but
keep in mind, I'm a title rep.
But here's what's interesting though, is I don't think that's true. I can't be sure.
Well, we're going to go into this because you feel like we're going to have more transactions as a result, but hold on, we're skipping ahead.
We're skipping ahead.
So, and we're kind of going down this rabbit hole. So everybody just kind of bear with us. So you thought that people might move more and stay in their houses for a less amount of time. Can you explain?
I think that is a logical outcome of a more seamless and affordable transaction process.
I don't know, Brian. I might argue with you a little bit about it because I'm not sure that I would move just because it was easier.
And you may be right. We don't know. There's this thing.
But I'm only one buyer, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's this thing that economists do, that sociologists do, where we think we can predict human behavior, but we don't understand the madness of crowds and how people act in large groups. We have a very tenuous understanding around how millions of human beings will act in some sort of group setting, right? This is how wars start, by the way, is we don't know how large groups of people are going to react to something that happens that fundamentally changes their lives, and it can oftentimes be negative. And this is neither positive nor negative. The question just becomes, what percentage of the population isn't moving right now because it's a bit of a hassle? And if you were to reduce the friction by a certain amount, how many more transactions per year would trade in the real estate space?
Well, and I'll give you a good example of that. My dad, while he was still with us, he never wanted to move. He hated moving.
Yeah.
He hated buying a house, selling a house, the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah.
He couldn't stand any of it. So he was going to stay in this 2-story house with no bedrooms down. He was 80 years old until he just flat out had to be removed from the house. So there is an argument for the hassle of it all, right?
100%. And that's kind of what I'm getting at is when we talk about these things, it's never 100% of people are going to behave a certain way.
Because I wouldn't move just because it was easier.
No, and a lot of people would, right? They don't not move because it's too difficult. It's they live there. Their kids go to school there. All these different things. But is there 10% of people every year that are thinking about moving that they're I don't want to get it all ready. I don't want to go through I don't want and is our current inventory levels and available housing, is that a reflection of those same other 10% of people that are like, that's the reason I'm not listing my home right now.
I think that's more interest rate lock, like
well, yeah. So again, a lot of things can be true simultaneously. Like even in a perfect rate environment and a balanced market, there's at least some percentage of people
I agree with you.
that would move if it was easier and they would move more often. And then that's the thing, Tamara. We're like literally only talking about variables that pertain to the housing market. We're not even talking about ease of mobility and lifestyle and things like that. Like right now, people are less tethered to their lives, I should say their jobs and all that type of stuff than they ever have been. And that's only going to progress, right? We're going to see more, how do you want to say it? Like not just people that work from home, but people that can work from anywhere and do anything in the future is going to be much more commonplace. Right.
Yeah, we've already seen, obviously, because of COVID, a big change in behavior.
Right.
People working remotely and things
so
like that.
Then how does that, what are the downstream effects of that? Right. So when you have more freedom of mobility because you're not as tethered to some geographic location because of your job, like what other sub industries pop up to make travel less expensive? Right. Like Airbnb, that's what it was designed for, was to make traveling less expensive.
Yes.
Right. There are a limited amount of hotel rooms in any metropolitan area.
Yep.
If we start letting out residential places, then hotel rooms will be forced to start charging less. And that's true, by the way. The average, I don't want to do this thing that I do on the other show where I start asking Jesse to pull stuff up. But you could, the average cost of a hotel room in every major metropolitan area over the last 15 years on a per capita basis, meaning compared to wages, has dropped significantly.
I believe it.
Because they have to compete with the rest of the inventory. So now people can travel more freely, right? Does that in some way make people want to move more?
So the next question I want to ask, so we're assuming that 10% of the population is moving more often or whatever it is. The cost to move is down. Okay. How does that affect the realtor and their ability to be successful and be profitable in their business?
Sure. And I've been really open about this on our other shows. It feels taboo to say it, and I believe in being honest. I believe there will be fewer realtors in the future. And I believe that they will make less money per transaction and sell a heck of a lot more homes per year. If you have a much more seamless transaction experience, then it creates a situation where I have to put less man hours into every transaction.
Right.
I can use tools for leverage to help me do more transactions simultaneously, efficiently, while providing the same high level of service. So I have the physical ability to scale my business to where I can close more deals at a lower cost, meaning it doesn't cost me as much to bring on leverage.
You don't have to do staff and all of that.
Type of stuff.
Yes.
So I can close more with less overhead. So I can afford to make less per transaction. And I believe the high producing realtor of the future will be doing hundreds of transactions a year with maybe a much more skeleton infrastructure in their business.
That. Yes, I agree.
And they'll be making less per transaction.
Why do you say they're going to make less per transaction?
Because they will. The why of it. Well, one, because all commissions are negotiable.
100%. Yeah.
Right.
But we're still around that. Don't be shaking your head. I get that it's negotiable, but still, we're still seeing that 2.5-3% commission, right?
But here's the thing: we're seeing that 2.5-3% commission a few years after a lawsuit, right?
True.
Look at any other industry on earth that is commission based. What do you pay your stockbroker for a trade?
I don't.
Exactly. What would you have paid him in the 70s?
I have no idea. Probably quite a bit.
Quite a bit more.
Yeah.
Quite a bit more. But why? Because because
we didn't have the capability to do it ourselves.
The entire ecosphere has changed.
Correct.
I mean, and it's the same idea. So again, how it comes out is different than will it come out, right? Like how exactly costs will come down. Well, I think there are some obvious ways costs will come down. On the mortgage side, if I have tools that can streamline the approval process,
you're getting rid of a whole bunch of staff.
Now I can afford to charge you less, right? That's not necessarily any different than the agent side.
But will they? But will they charge less?
Yeah.
Because when you look at supplies, home building supplies, for example.
Right.
Well, all of that went up during COVID because of demand. But there's not any demand anymore. Have the prices gone down? No, they have not. So will they? I mean, look, that's a different conversation. And we are talking theoretically here, of course. But
we're also talking about tangible resources like building materials, I think that's an important distinction to make, because those are I wouldn't say finite resources, but they are not easily renewable resources, if that makes sense. Glass is way harder to renew as a resource than information.
Okay. Yes, I follow that. Yeah.
So like digital processes, like a mortgage where I'm providing you a service, services are infinitely renewable.
Yeah,
right?
but just because they can lower the price doesn't mean they're going to.
They won't. Their competitors will, and that's what's called the race to the bottom, right?
There we go.
Somebody in the marketplace will always charge a penny less, and then over time, right?
Got it. Competition will take care of that.
We just live in a social environment where people are not incentivized to collaborate and work together. In fact, what we do when they do collaborate and work together, we call that price fixing. And then we pay lawyers billions of dollars to enrich themselves and undo that. So by design, those things will cost less in the future. Right?
It's a very interesting concept to think about. I mean, look, it's still the producers that are invested in their business, educated experts will survive, right? The producers will still produce.
I would use the word
but it's
thrive.
A different,
yeah, like I don't want
a different metric.
I feel like I have to preface this every time I talk about it. Like I don't even want to say survive. They will thrive. The real estate agent of the future, I believe, will be a very highly paid position.
Okay.
Because they will be able to navigate difficult, complex human scenarios. When we've given so much of our humanity to AI, real estate is still a highly emotionally driven transaction process. And depending on experts to help navigate that, I believe will always be valuable.
Okay, so we're going to talk more about the realtor side of this on the next episode. But last piece of, or our little pro tip that you want to leave everybody with: how do consumers keep themselves secure on AI, specifically during the real estate transaction?
Yes, I believe in guiding principles. Again, nobody knows everything, so you have to use guiding principles. Don't ever enter anything into an AI window or chat box that you wouldn't want a stranger knowing. Right? Like we build a lot of things in our companies with AI, and I've made the mistake of giving certain credentials and things like that inadvertently into it. And fortunately enough, we've got some really good AI models that are out there that'll say, hey, change the thing you just sent me.
Yeah, you were explaining that yesterday.
Right?
But we got people, I hear of it on the news, uploading their entire like bank statements and information to try to help them with their finances.
Please don't do that.
Yeah.
There will be much more. There will be bespoke, custom tailored models in the future that will be highly secure, and you'll know why and when they're secured. But I think, one, don't ever upload anything you wouldn't want a stranger to know. And two, AI is a tool. Speak to it like a tool. When you're having a conversation around what you're trying to accomplish and involve sensitive data, tell it that you need it to ask you for whatever you need in a way that will always be secure, and it will tell you what not to give it.
That's a pro tip right there.
Right? Like
that's a great pro tip.
I tell my wife this a lot. My wife has amazing employees at her company. And when we first started using a lot of AI in her business, she was getting so frustrated, and she was like telling me what I was doing wrong. I was like, well, did you tell it? And she was like, no. And I was like, you have to speak to it in a way that you're speaking to one of your amazing partners, your assistants, your employees, right? Like it will learn and grow, but don't be mad when it doesn't get it right the first time.
You got to keep working with it. 100%.
Have a conversation and tell it what you don't want to give it. And it will give you guidance on how to get what you want without giving it things that are too sensitive.
That's great. I love that. That's a great place to stop here. Thank you, Brian. Now, if you're a real estate professional, be sure to catch our next episode where we dive into how AI is transforming the business from the agent's perspective. That's a wrap on episode number 135. Again, I'm your host, Tamera Gaede. If you like my content, you're really going to love my escrow team. So give me an opportunity to talk to you about your title needs and make it a great day.
Gather round the table.